listening to the Big Blue Marble Podcast with Anwar Knight.
It's very rare with the pace of modern life that we stop and think about how much we consume and the way we live our lives. So I think it's a beginning.
It's a beginning. And indeed, it sure was. That was Cate Blanchett, Hollywood star and proud Australian, remarking on the world debut of Earth Hour. She said that 14 years ago as it officially launched in Sydney, Australia in 2007. And she was right. It was the beginning of what is now one of the world's largest grassroots movements for the environment. In 2007, over 2 million people switched the lights off, reducing Sydney's energy consumption that was equivalent to taking 48,000 cars off the road for 1 hour. It was started by the World Wildlife Fund and a select group of partners. Today, millions of people in more than 190 countries take part in this symbolic Lights Out event that is held every year on the last Saturday of March. Some of the world's most iconic landmarks have taken part, including the Eiffel Tower and the Sydney Opera House, the Kremlin building in Russia, and even the pyramids of Egypt sat in darkness in solidarity. When Earth Hour first launched, it was about 3 months before the release of An Inconvenient Truth.
If you look at the 10 hottest years ever measured, they've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005.
Al Gore's groundbreaking film about climate change prompted people to start asking questions about the climate crisis and to do something about it. Earth Hour then quickly became an open source opportunity to unite people, all people, to protect our planet and help avert a climate crisis. My guest who will be joining me today is Megan Leslie. She is the president and CEO of World Wildlife Fund Canada, and she'll explain how the Earth Hour movement has evolved. Yes, you are still encouraged to flick the switch on Saturday, March 27th, but these days, there's a much greater call to action, efforts that are needed more than ever to ensure not only a healthy planet, but by extension, our own health, happiness, and even survival. Earth Hour is Time on Our Side starts now.
Have a question, comment, or show idea? Let us know at bigbluemarble.earth.
Good of you to join us today, Megan. I appreciate your time. I've really been looking forward to having you on the show.
Big Blue Marble, come on. I'm really happy to be here.
Good stuff. I was reading some of your posts on the WWF website, and in one of them, you were reflecting over last year, 2020, and you mentioned that it is unrealistic for us to think that we can stay positive all the time. And I found that very refreshing because it was a candid admission that while WWF's goals remain the same, if not intensified, you, like many, many other operations, businesses, individuals, had to figure out a different way to help make things happen. And Earth Hour, in its simplest form, is a very social entity. In years past, crowds gathered. In fact, I remember years ago myself joining in at Nathan Phillips Square as we counted down to lights out. Restaurants also hosted theme nights. So I wanted to start by asking you, how is COVID changing the way Earth Hour 2021 now will be celebrated?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for reading that post and taking that message. It has been a wild year. And also, any of us who are working on environment issues, it is hard to stay positive all the time. It's also a bit unrealistic. Bad stuff is happening. And especially this year, we've had all kinds of bad news for people, whether it's about the pandemic or wildlife loss or climate change. And yeah, things are dire, but I know what's possible, right? We can overcome this. We are smart enough to mess things up as human beings. I think we're smart enough to fix it. And I think that we all collectively have the passion. So something like Earth Hour is a really exciting moment for us to just collectively sit down for, 60 minutes and think about, what does this mean to me and what can I do and how am I a part of this? It's really a moment for us to take stock, maybe make commitments, maybe think about what we need to do. And so the pandemic last year really hit Earth Hour. Everybody was scrambling at this time last year, let's be honest. And I think everybody tried to recover the best way that they could when they had events like this. So the way we did it last year, we really put public safety first and foremost, of course, and we were learning what COVID-19 even meant. So we went online completely. This year, unfortunately or fortunately, we have a bit more runway. So we've had the chance to think about how do we do a good online engagement for people. So this year, what we want to do is help spread the word, get people to help us spread the word about a must-watch video that we're releasing for Earth Hour. And it's highlighting recovering wildlife and reversing climate change, and that these things are possible and what we can do collectively. So we're really trying to focus on what is possible, what could be a positive way of looking at this, and what we could do together.
And technology certainly plays a huge role here, without question. Now more than ever, we can connect with like-minded individuals from virtually anywhere on the globe. And that, in part, leads to innovation, compassion, inspiration, the commonality that we all lose if we don't forge an effort together. Right?
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes Earth Hour so special. Now, last year was record-breaking. There were 190 countries and territories, if I have my research correct here, that supported Earth Hour. Do you think Earth Hour means the same thing universally, though? Whether you're in Sydney, where it started, New Delhi, Miami, Toronto, or Halifax, does it mean the same thing to the communities that take part?
That's a great question. And I think the answer is no, thank goodness. Because we all have different realities in our countries. Hey, even in Canada, we have different realities region to region. So one of the beauties of Earth Hour is that local communities, different countries can look at it differently and think about what do I want to do, and how do I almost like embody this sentiment. And I know this year, different countries are doing different things, whether it's 10K virtual run or everybody's taking a pledge. I think in Finland, they're coordinating a pledge for environment. Here in Canada, we're really focusing on the fact that there's going to be a federal budget. We want it to be a budget for nature, for a just and green recovery from this pandemic. So it allows countries or regions or communities to take action or to turn it into something that speaks best to them. And I really like that about Earth Hour. I mean, people tend to think about that very first Earth Hour where we all collectively turned off the lights to draw attention to climate change. Remember that? Like it was
absolutely.
really focused. Yeah, it was focused on climate change. And it worked. This was at a time when we didn't really understand climate change as well as we do now. And it worked, drawing attention to that issue. Over time, Earth Hour has evolved to bring attention to other environment issues. I do think sometimes they're back 15 years ago, thinking that it's only about climate change. It can be whatever you want. It's about our place on this earth and our role in protecting it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking the same thing on the very first one back in 2007 in Sydney, Australia. It was incredibly successful. And some estimates were that the power consumption was down over 10%. And I'm almost wondering, because it was so simple, maybe it was too simple, and that people thought that, you know what, I'm eating dinner in the dark, I've done my part. Do you think that there's now maybe, you're trying to catch up to do a little bit of a rebrand in that sense?
I think that's a fair observation. The success of that first Earth Hour and even the first couple of years was just so incredibly inspiring. I was a community advocate and working on low-income energy affordability and low-income energy efficiency at the time. And it was just breathtaking to see those news reports about electricity demand diminishing. So definitely since then, I think we did a great job of I always want to say shine a light on, but it's Earth Hour. We turn the lights off. I can't say that. Shining a light on climate change. Last year was a really concerted effort by all of us organizing around the world to also bring attention to the biodiversity crisis. We have these twin crises of climate change and biodiversity, which is really just the loss of biological diversity on the planet. So, bringing attention to other environment issues has been maybe a little bit more of a challenge, but has also offered up the opportunity to different WWFs, different community organizations to, like I said earlier, really bring it down to the community level and figure out how do we want to engage on environmental issues locally.
And I think that's one of the strengths of Earth Hour, nurturing various levels of engagement. But at its core, what message do you hope connects with people the most? What is the heartbeat of this movement?
It is a moment for us to think about what we can accomplish together. I'm hopeful that even that act of slowing down, that act of the symbol of support, can be a catalyst for urgent change. It's not just about those 60 minutes, but those 60 minutes are really important for us to just think about this movement for our future, this world where we're experiencing these real impacts of climate change and biodiversity loss, and what it means to us, and how we can take action as individuals. Importantly, how we can take action as a country.
And that the reality is just slowing down to second gear in our normal life would be a blessing, right?
Yes.
Forget COVID, forget all the changing planet issues. Just for us to regroup as a society, to just say, hey, let's take a deep breath. And perhaps that may be one silver lining of COVID, that we've sort of, been reintroduced to, and it sounds cliche, but what is important in our life, and how much we really do rely on nature more than ever. So maybe that's a part of it. But I wanted to ask you about 2020, because it was a devastating year for extreme weather events in many places of the world. Globally, one of the hottest on record. We have had epic wildfire season, historic hurricane season, and many of these events have been directly attributed to climate change. So I wonder, if it had not been for COVID, that I think personally that perhaps 2020 would have been a breaking point in some manner that maybe would have propelled significant positive action for our planet. Instead, some of those events remain in the shadow of the pandemic. Do you think as a result that we have now long-lasting consequences? We're behind the eight ball now more than ever in terms of helping our Earth?
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of looking at it, and something to definitely think about. On the one hand, I see things like our greenhouse gas emissions are down. People are seeing wildlife coming back in places like cities and urban spaces. So there's this moment where we are kind of seeing the impact that humans are having on our environment. And so I'm hopeful that we, you hear about the foxes in the beaches of downtown Toronto. You hear about, deer in downtown Vancouver. That's a future we could choose. I do think the pandemic has really given us a moment to understand how important nature is. I think about all the people, the parks were full. You can't book a campsite for this summer. All the people I know who've purchased bikes or cross-country skis, and people are realizing, oh my gosh, what a gift to be able to get out in nature. So those are things that I think are in the plus column. On the minus column, 100%. You said that 2020 was a devastating year for extreme weather events in many places around the planet. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I think a lot of these moments were overshadowed by the pandemic, like you said. Could we have gotten further down the road? Absolutely. At the same time, I think we are being confronted with the fact that this devastation to nature that we are executing around the planet is part of the reason why we have a pandemic. Encroaching on natural spaces. There's nowhere left for the wildlife to go. Different WWF experts have written great articles about this and how there will be more pandemics if we don't get a rein on our just consumption of nature, cutting it down for development so we can build more houses, so we can farm more land, so we can, we really are in a delicate balance right now. And what we want to work towards is actually stopping that destruction of nature. And can you imagine growing the amount of nature on this planet? That's what we need to work towards. So I think you're right, but the pandemic gave us this press pause moment where we could step back and say, hey, hang on, there's a lot of things at play here. Let's look into that crystal ball. And when we see the future that we want, let's choose it. How do we choose it?
Mm-hmm. And in some manner, the future we want, or perhaps more importantly, the one we need, will hinge on what happens in November, when world leaders will reconvene in Glasgow.
Yeah.
This is the follow-up to the initial Paris Agreement, where participating countries promised to come back every 5 years and assess and raise their carbon-cutting ambitions. Now, COVID delayed that follow-up meeting initially. It was supposed to happen last November, so it's this year now. But so far, collectively, we are off track. We are falling short of the targets set by the conference. That is one issue. You also mentioned earlier the loss of biodiversity. So this is a crucial time. What do you see as the biggest threat in regards to the future of our planet, Megan?
It is a dual crisis. It is climate change and biodiversity loss, or the loss of biological diversity. It's both, and they exacerbate each other. The thing is, I really want your listeners to understand that it's not hopeless. Oh my gosh, it's the exact opposite. We can deal with these issues. And if I can offer one panacea, it's nature. It's nature. So nature is habitat. What do wildlife need? They need habitat. They need a place to live. They need habitat that supports them, where they can hunt and feed and breed. So habitat is nature. Nature also stores carbon. We all know since grade school that trees have carbon in them. Well, also the wetlands, also the forest floors, the peatlands, grasslands stored in the soil is, hundreds of years of carbon from vegetation. Also on our coasts, blue carbon, the seagrass, the eelgrass. It is really breathtaking to think about how these landscapes and seascapes are storing carbon, and how if we wanted to restore habitat, we would also be restoring carbon. We'd be taking carbon out of the atmosphere, locking it into those wetlands, for example. We actually think at WWF that we can meet 30% of our Paris targets just through nature. So there's a way forward for us. Yes, we have these dual crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. They are so inextricably linked, but nature offers the solution for both those crises, while also slowing the formation of new viruses and pandemics, while also absorbing water in our cities so that we aren't getting floods and having to, rebuild our basements every year, while also, giving us a place to be, and all this talk about forest bathing and reconnecting with nature. It's true. We love being in nature. Think of all of the things that nature does for us and can do for us if we actually took a perspective of restoring that nature. There's an incredible opportunity for us. And when you ask what we're focused on at WWF, it is exactly that.
Well, it's funny you say forest bathing. To this day, that is one of our most downloaded episodes.
I believe it.
Yeah, forest bathing,
Yeah.
the antidote to chaos is what
Yes.
we called it. It's so true.
And just imagine if we were like, okay, let's create more spaces for forest bathing. Well, it's also a carbon store.
Yeah.
Well, you're also recreating habitat. Well, you're also creating climate resilience. Like it's really, it just covers so many things, and it makes us feel good.
About reestablishing that balance with nature,
Yeah.
right? And that offers in itself the life support to our overall planetary health, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk about something positive, and that is some of the significant initiatives, the true success stories that have evolved from the Earth Hour movements. Highlight a couple that you're most proud of, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Well, since Earth Hour started, and we've talked about how it's mobilized millions of people, and I've mentioned how different countries or regions have decided, hey, this is what Earth Hour means to us. And one of the biggest things about Earth Hour is it does get all of us to focus on one thing. And politicians listen to that. They're like, oh gosh, all these people, really? All these people are involved? Oh, I better listen to them because they're voters. So we've had some incredible global successes. In Russia, an Earth Hour initiative actually ended up in successfully calling for new legislation for the protection of forests. And this is an area that's twice the size of France. So it's, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
Uganda was a successful Earth Hour initiative, created a huge Earth Hour forest, if you can believe it. Argentina has a marine protected area that it was really Earth Hour support was mobilized for this marine protected area. It's over 3 million hectares in size.
Wow.
I know it's really incredible when we're all focused on something, right? Indonesia, they planted about 20,000 mangrove seedlings as an Earth Hour campaign in I think 13 different cities. Here, can I talk about what we are trying to get people to do in Canada right now?
Yeah, yes, please. That would be my follow-up.
Okay.
If somebody's listening, saying, how do we be a part of that?
Well, here in Canada, we have traditionally promoted Earth Hour as an awareness campaign. We haven't usually had an ask for people, but, hey, we've seen the success of some of our colleagues in other countries, so we want to capitalize on that success too. So again, back to this idea that we do have a federal budget coming out, and it will be a post-pandemic budget, and we think that it should be a budget that calls for a just and green recovery. So we have the One Earth, One Voice petition. We're asking people to sign that. It's a simple thing to do. All you need to do is, click and sign your name. And it sends a message automatically to the Prime Minister and to the Minister of Finance and says, hey, I want to make Canada better. It needs to be greener, more inclusive, innovative, and equitable. And that's what you have promised to do, federal government, in your budget announcement. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that action. So it's a simple ask of people to just, would you sign your name? Would you lend your voice to this? And I think it can have a powerful impact. And I'm really looking forward to the government getting that message from people.
What has been the response? I mean, obviously, some of the initiatives, the success stories that you listed, they have certainly listened to their people.
Yeah.
What is, in general, though, when it comes to government leadership, when there is this grassroots movement that has really, it has just grown so immensely. Are you a feared entity in terms of, wow, now they're coming for us? I'm curious.
I love that question. I don't think we are generally feared, but I think we could be.
Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to change the tactics. We got to get this done.
Well, I would say WWF is certainly taken seriously, and we are often asked for our opinion, for our expertise on different policy initiatives, for sure. Also with industry. I mean, many industrial players want to be good global citizens, and so they come to us and ask for input into their different initiatives. But, so I used to be a parliamentarian. I used to be a member of parliament. And it's not just about WWF, though. It really is about people. When I know that all of these constituents of mine care about an issue, when I know that they're all turning their lights off as a symbolic gesture for the planet, I then know that I have got to be a voice for environment on behalf of my constituents. I mean, don't underestimate that power. Does that mean that politicians are afraid of of their constituents, maybe a little bit. Good, healthy dose of fear, I think.
Well, I think that's a good thing. We're at that point where we can't defer anymore. We have 8 to 10 years left to get this right.
Yeah. And, I think people haven't really thought about the role of nature in our health, in climate, for biodiversity. I think it's kind of been an afterthought, like, oh, isn't that just parks? Oh, I like parks. Parks are good. But there is a real understanding of the role of nature in our future and the role of nature on this planet. And I will say that we did in the last, I know I keep going back to the federal government, it's not my intention, but the last federal election, there were a lot of environment organizations who said, hey, these are the things that are important to us. These are our priorities. Where do you stand on them? And people, I know we ended up with a minority government, but really, people voted for all the parties that had climate positions. And climate change was on the tip of everybody's tongue. And I think there was also a surprising amount of pressure around nature. So you'll see nature was in the throne speech. Nature, the prime minister has pledged a leader's pledge for nature internationally. I've never seen that kind of thing before. We saw nature as part of the economic recovery in the throne speech. What? When would you ever have thought that we'd be talking about nature in a budget? Like it's pretty exciting. And that's been in just a couple of years.
It was described as a climate change election. That's how it was phrased.
Yeah.
And there will never be another election without a significant component being about nature, which is a great step forward without question. What do you think Earth Hour will look like in, say, a decade from now? Have you thought that far, or do you sort of live, year to year?
A decade from now, that's
Yeah, and you may not have an answer to that. Yeah. I'm just wondering, the evolution from when it initially started in 2007, when it really was, I mean, if you were doing branding for a product, you would have won awards, across the board because it was so successful, but it was simple. It was about, power consumption, and it has evolved immensely. So obviously to continue the propelling forward motion here, it has to grow as well. So 5 to 10 years from now,
I got it.
What do you think?
Okay. In 10 years, mark your calendar. Earth Hour is not going to be about asking businesses to step up or demanding investments that nature needs or setting targets. We're going to be celebrating. We're going to be celebrating what we've accomplished. And we're going to be celebrating the fact that each and every one of us is doing what we can to support nature and it's going to be a celebration in 10 years. Mark my words.
Well,
I'll buy the first round.
I look forward to toasting you on that. Truly, I mean, as a father of 2 young kids, that's my inspiration of doing the podcast. We're trying to get people together and making a difference. Just before we wrap up, I just want to make it clear for people then who may have never taken part in Earth Hour. Can you just list off a couple of things then, tangible things that they could do as we push into the weekend that would make a difference? Firstly, of course, maybe turning off your lights for the hour.
Yeah, turn off your lights, bring the family around the kitchen table, and have a discussion about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Whether it is planting some native species in your yard or on your balcony, whether it is, whenever we get back to driving more, taking a couple days off of your commute and doing it by bike where you can. Maybe it is, putting a rain barrel. I mean, they can be small actions. So have that conversation, but really importantly, it's not just about us and our individual actions. Mm-hmm. It is also about what government can do and needs to do. And so I would encourage everybody, wwf.ca/OEOV, so One Earth, One Voice, and sign that petition. It's a small act, but it really sends a big message. Can you imagine if millions of people sign that petition, the kind of action that we would get from government on climate and nature? It would be pretty inspiring.
Indeed, it would be. Boy, you've given us so much to think about here as we mark Earth Hour 2021. Our reoccurring theme here on the podcast is that indeed we all need to be a part of the change that needs to happen. And today, maybe it is that, right now our listeners may sign that petition or indeed switch off the lights, but hopefully it does go well beyond that. Thank you so much again for your time, and we wish the entire team much success this coming weekend.
Thanks.
Megan Leslie has been my guest. She is the president and CEO of World Wildlife Fund Canada. For more information on what they do and on Earth Hour, log online, wwf.ca. And again, if you'd like to participate, Earth Hour is this Saturday at 8:30 p.m. local time. We are hoping to celebrate it in our home, but we'll be outdoors. That's the plan if the weather cooperates, with the kids roasting some marshmallows around a fire pit. The lights will be out. It really is a terrific opportunity, as Megan said, to come together as a family, especially if you have kids, and talk about positive things that you can do to help our environment. They, after all, are the ones that will inherit the earth that we leave them. So it was great chatting with Megan, and we look forward to having her on again in the future. As we wrap up, a few programming notes. We are growing. Yeah, I wanted to update you on my YouTube channel. Not only do we have, of course, the podcast uploaded, but also now the Blue Files Extended Edition. It's a video series that we update each week. And journalist Christina Stevens co-hosts with me. She's our West Coast contributor, so it's great to have her on the team. You can find that link at bigbluemarble.earth, or you can just search Anwar Knight YouTube, and that'll pull it up. And also don't forget, you can join me each Friday afternoon for a Facebook live stream series. I called it Here and There, and it has been so much fun. We literally explore here and there, discover new places across the region, again, all live. And the magic is that we can interact in real time. So that's on my Facebook page. We stream live each Friday at noon, and you can find that on Facebook at Anwar Knight TV. As always, though, all of these projects can only survive with your help. Please, if you like what you are seeing and hearing, give us a thumbs up, send some comments, like the pages, subscribe, follow, and share. It's really the only way our channels and platforms can grow and then deliver sponsors. I really appreciate your support with that. All of my platforms, once again, can be accessed at www.bigbluemarble.earth. That's bigbluemarble.earth. It's at the bottom of the homepage. You see the icons there, and you can find me whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that sort of thing. Anyway, on that note, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for your time today. It's always a privilege to have your company, my friends. I'm Anwar Knight, wishing you a great day on the Big Blue Marble.
That was another great show, Daddy.